Dirt Trax is sponsored by CanAm. The ride says it all. Polaris, the hardest working, smoothest riding off-road vehicles. And by Yamaha Motor Canada. What kind of Yamaha are you?
There are few places more legendary in the off-road universe than the rocky desert landscape of Moab. This area has long been the destination for people who seek the slower speed adrenaline rush that comes from picking your way up the steep, smooth rock faces and in between the sharp and deep crevasses. The terrain is endless and beautiful to both sightseers and motorheads alike. If only one word was used to describe Moab, the word that best fits would be challenging.
I'm Jared with Rally on the Rocks. I'm one of the co-owners. We have a lot of great things in store here in Moab. With the history of Rally on the Rocks, we were pleased to take Rally on the Rocks into our hands a couple years ago. With the rally and the introduction to side-by-sides to Moab, it only made sense that we had a rally in Moab.
Rally on the Rocks started about 5 years ago in a little campground north of town with about 30 or 40 buddies. And that's how the idea got started. And as the side-by-side industry grew, it got bigger and better with more participation, with the need to move it here to the Spanish Trail Arena.
While you're here at the event, we have a lot of great vendors. You'll see some of the newest products available on the market. You're also going to get a chance to test drive the new Arctic Cat Wildcat.
Our involvement with Rally on the Rocks, we're the title sponsor this year, so what you're seeing is Arctic Cat banners everywhere, and fortunately for us, Arctic Cats everywhere. Why we sponsor an event like this, when you build a machine with 18 inches of travel, you want to showcase that thing, and what a better place than Moab, Utah. This is the off-road capital of the world. So we're putting this thing in people's hands and letting them show them what it can really do.
Other than coming to Moab to ride the trails, the rally as an event offers multiple opportunities for a person in this industry to take demo rides with the OEMs. We've got 2 demo tracks out here, one slow-speed rock crawling course as well as a mile-long desert course. A participant can take those machines out for a ride to make an educated purchase on what's best for him.
There really is no better place than here to test the capability and durability of a side-by-side ATV, which is why Arctic Cat chose to use this place through their sponsorship of Rally on the Rocks to test the capabilities and durability of their new Wildcat side-by-side and prove to the world that this vehicle is capable of handling the most challenging terrain on the planet.
I tell you what, it's all about gaining exposure for us in the Western market with the Wildcat, and that's why we're part of this event. We get to put butts in seats, and people get to experience the Wildcat firsthand and walk away with a positive experience.
Another thing I really like about this event that has intrigued me enough to make me want to return in the future is the family aspect. There are tons of families here, lots of kids running around, husband and wife groups. It's really a family-oriented event, and I would love to bring my family back here. I think it would be a great time. I think every family I've seen has been having a great time together. And if you can find an event that can entertain not just yourself as a hardcore ATVer, but keep your wife happy and keep your kids excited and interested, I think that's something you want to come back to year after year.
Closed captioning of Dirt Trax is sponsored by Dirt Trax Magazine. Unbiased opinion from the sport's most experienced authority.
Of all the cool things going on here at Rally on the Rocks, I have to be perfectly honest, the one that intrigued me the most was definitely the trail ride. Riding in Moab has long been on my bucket list of places to ride a side-by-side, and having that opportunity, I was so bristling with excitement the night before I could barely sleep. Not only do I get to ride in Moab, but I get to be guided through the tough trails by a local who knows these trails better than anybody else. That's pretty cool in itself. But to add to all of it and just take this to the absolute next level, I get to do all this in a brand new Wildcat. This is a hugely capable vehicle. It's been proven capable by others. And I get to take a vehicle that everybody raves about out here, one of the best, they say, in stock form, and ride it in this type of terrain. I just don't think it can possibly get better than that for an experience like this. The ride day itself started at the Poison Spider trailhead. The names of the trails out here are so hardcore. You have these huge expectations when you hit the trail that you're probably not going to make it back in one piece. Leaving the trailhead, we drove basically a switchback up the side of a cliff. You're running right along the edge of a rock cliff. You can look right off the edge and it's hundreds of feet down to the trail you just drove up with more side-by-sides on it. And you know, we approach our first obstacle and our guide Lance gets out and basically shows us how to do it, tells us what the right angle is, the right approach, does it himself on his own Wildcat. And then, you know, Kale from Arctic Cat and I are in a brand new Wildcat. It's got 1 mile on it, and we approach this obstacle and just rip up the face of it. And we're scratching off the bottom and taking this brand new vehicle and putting it through its paces. But the ride day really pushed the limits of what I thought a vehicle could do on 5 or 6 occasions, taking this vehicle to places that, had I not had a person who knew that it was possible, I definitely wouldn't have tried it myself. But because he did it first, I knew he could do it, he knew he could do it. I thought, well, if he can, I can, so let's go.
Poison Spider is a great trail. The trail we took the Dirt Trax crew on yesterday. It has plenty of obstacles to push your limits, but it also has what we refer to as pass-arounds or bypasses. So if you've got an extreme group of guys, bring in a new group of guys, they can have fun on the trail, tackling the obstacles while the new guys ooh and ah and decide maybe I'll check that one out next time. What sets Moab apart from any other terrain I've ever driven on, whether it be a side-by-side or what have you, is just the topography and the terrain.
When I first left the Poison Spider trailhead in the Wildcat, I had limited experience with that vehicle, mostly on a motocross track, catching big air, going fast, power sliding. I knew it could do that. I was totally comfortable in that type of terrain with that vehicle. But looking at the terrain here, I seriously had some doubts about whether or not the Wildcat was going to be able to survive this, number one, but was going to be capable out here, number two. What I found out very quickly was that the Wildcat is extremely capable out here, possibly one of the most capable vehicles in stock form that's ever been produced for this type of terrain.
A lot of people look at the Wildcat and they think it's just racing only. Well, the Wildcat has a little bit more capability than racing. We designed this with terrain in mind and gnarly terrain. So we're getting them out, we're rock crawling. I mean, you've never had so much fun crawling at 5 miles an hour over gnarly obstacles. So it's more than just going 70 miles an hour. This thing can go 5 miles an hour through tough terrain or 70 miles an hour through tough terrain.
Just really interesting to find out what these vehicles are capable of and what I was capable of as a driver.
The terrain here in Moab is absolutely amazing. It meted my expectations plus more. I mean, I've been reading about this place since I was a little kid in off-road magazines, and seeing some of these obstacles that the Jeeps go through and getting to tackle the same stuff in the Wildcat was just simply amazing.
One of the things that surprised me about riding here was the sheer diversity of riding styles on one trail. We rode only Poison Spider, but from the beginning of that trail, from a dusty kind of rocky fire road type experience to the end of the trail, which was steep 5-6 foot straight up cliffs, way out on the expanses of rock, solid rock. The trail was completely different, and it had something for everybody, whether you wanted to just poke along slowly and take in the scenery, which was incredible, or if you wanted to really test your limits. Everything about this trip has been top-notch. And of course, a great reason to come here, a great excuse to come here, is the Rally on the Rocks event. I've been all over the world to countless ATV rallies and jamborees and events, and I really have to say that in terms of size and true involvement, this Rally on the Rocks event is one of the best I've ever been to. And overall, the experience here is beyond my expectations. It certainly exceeded my expectations in every way. And I can't honestly say that about every event I've ever been to. So that's something to say.
Test Ride is sponsored by Fox, redefining ride dynamics.
Now that we're in the 2012 riding season, one thing's becoming very apparent to me, and it's been building for quite a few years, and that is the sport utility category is heavily weighted to the sport side, whereas 10 years ago, a sport utility ATV was built to work first and play second. I mean, who in their right mind would have thought about strapping an 82 horsepower, 976cc EFI V-twin between their legs and calling it an ATV? Oh right, CanAm did. And they call it the G2 Outlander 1000. Made to play, ready and willing to work, and chock full of the most usable horsepower in the business. What does most usable mean, you might ask? Well, when you're trying to shoehorn a big bore behemoth like the 1-liter Rotax under the seat, you'd better be sure that you've got a chassis that's stable and confident to deliver all of that power down to the ground. And that's exactly what the SST G2 frame does. Utilizing what CanAm calls geometric contact control, the new frame is designed with totally new front and rear geometry. Or to put it simply, the suspension chews bumps, carves corners, and tackles washboard with increased stability and control, making your ride way more confident while keeping the tires in contact with the ground more than previous model Outlanders. One of the most noticeable changes in geometry comes by way of the front end, where the upper A-arm has been rotated back into the attack position and features dive control technology. Now what does all this mean? Well, it reduces kickback felt in the handlebars, stabilizes the front end, and also increases front wheel travel. All great things in my books. Previous Outlanders did have a slight unsteadiness up front through high-speed corners or when pounding through bumps, and produced a front-end dive with handlebar kick in certain situations. These characteristics are eliminated with the new geometry and work in perfect harmony with the XT package's DPS tri-mode power steering. The G2 has truly raised the bar, delivering a better Outlander. While you may be chomping at the bit for the motor shakedown, the reality is when you're strapping this much horsepower under the seat, you'd better have your geometry figured out so that riders can safely and confidently use all of that available horsepower. And that's exactly what CanAm did with the SST G2 frame. Now, as anxious as you are for the motor specs, I'm pretty excited to deliver them to you visually. Monstrous is the only word I can come up with for the torque produced by the 1K Rotax. Launching in two-wheel drive is a joke as the rear tires light up like a top fueler heating up the slicks. When four-wheel is selected, the Visco-Lock QE, or quick engagement, gets the front wheels involved in a hurry and helps cut down wheel spin. Flipping the throttle through twisty trails in four-wheel drive is a joy with the DPS power steering, as all four wheels are engaged, yet the feedback level is perfect in the minimum setting. not straining your arms in any way at all. 82 horsepower is a lot to hold on to in a side-by-side, let alone an ATV, but the masterminds behind the Outlander G2 found a way to settle the 1 liter down and make it usable both at throttle tip-in and lower RPM ranges. Now don't for 1 second get me wrong. When you mate the throttle with the rubber grip, life will blur. However, the proper calibration of the throttle pull, injector input, and clutching makes slower, tight sections of trail easy to maneuver, and not at all jumpy if you decide to put your G2 1K in low range and work it. This is especially helpful as the monstrous torque is smoothly delivered to the ground and will pull just about anything you hook it to. In the way of amenities, the G2 is very similar to the old Outlander, and by that, I mean it comes loaded right from the factory, with digital gauge package, DESS security key, aluminum rims, and a 230-watt industry-leading headlight package. But where you get the real goods is in the XT package, where CanAm continues to deliver legendary value with tons of features. When you spec out an Outlander G2, take the time to look into the XT package. It adds huge monetary benefit at an incredible price you'd be crazy not to take a look at. The extra features of the XT package include DPS tri-mode power steering with Visco-Lock QE, Warn winch with remote, trick aluminum rims, and upgraded 26-inch tires, heavy-duty front and rear bush bar style bumpers, integrated handguards, and a 650-watt high-output magneto, all for around $1,500. An industry-leading package that's becoming legendary for value. Many years ago, CanAm made a statement that they were going to build their ATVs and not focus solely on utility. And a long ways down that road, they continue to deliver on that mantra, producing first-class sport utility vehicles like the Outlander 1000 G2. Each year on Trax TV, we try to come up with new and interesting stories about what's going on in the off-road world and how to get the most out of your ATV or side-by-side. And speaking about getting the most, today I'm going to talk to you about low range. On a CVT belt-driven ATV or side-by-side, you will most likely find a low-range setting. Whether you're riding a sporty new CanAm Commander or an early 90s Polaris Sportsman, your vehicle will almost certainly have low range. But many riders don't know when to use low range, or in some cases, what it's for. And the truth is, a lot of myth and assumptions swirl around the use of low range. First off, we need to understand what low range is and what it does to your continuously variable transmission, or CVT, to make it work. And understanding the clutches is how we're going to find this information out. A CVT transmission on an ATV or side-by-side constantly alters the position of the belt on the primary and secondary clutches. As the belt pushes up and down the face of the clutches, you move faster or slower in a process of continuous gear changes. By this I mean each incremental change of the belt's location on the clutch faces is in essence a change in gearing. Just like a manual shifted ATV changes gears by shifting a lever, a CVT-equipped ATV or side-by-side is constantly changing gears via the belt's position on both clutches. The benefit of a CVT transmission is its ability to continuously optimize the clutching or gearing of the ATV, ensuring that the power being delivered to the ground is happening in the most optimal way for the amount of throttle being inputted. The gear selector on your ATV or side-by-side will most likely have high, low, neutral, and reverse. And while the clutches are continuously variable, the drive selector is using actual gears within the driveline. Your high range selection uses a high ratio gear, while the low range uses a low ratio gear. This range selection does not alter the way the clutches work, but rather the output of the secondary or driven clutches' power to the wheels. So when is the right time to shift into low range? Well, preferably before you smell the rubber of your belt burning, and always when you're working your ATV or side-by-side hard. Certain trail situations will require the use of low range, not only to increase your belt's life, but also to help you gear down and climb over objects. Because you still have all the available torque and power of the motor, but with a lower gear ratio, the engine is able to turn the wheels easier when under load, making tough rocky climbs or extra thick mud crawling much easier and far more maneuverable. A good rule of thumb for when to use low range is whenever you're carrying something heavier than your ATV's racks or side-by-side's box is rated to carry, whenever you're snow plowing or using Trax, and in any vertical condition where you're climbing over rocks or stumps. Just because you come to a steep hill or long muddy section does not mean you need to shift into low range. Modern ATVs and side-by-sides will tackle 90% of the trail you encounter on a day's ride in high range without causing damage to the belt. Low range is a great tool available to you, however, don't let it be a hindrance because of what you've heard others say. Enjoy your ATV, and when required, use low range to help increase belt life and get you through tough trail sections, or to help you descend extra steep hills. There's no doubt that low range is a benefit to have on your ATV or side-by-side when working them hard. But truth be told, here at Dirt Trax Television, we use low range very infrequently on a day's trail ride, and only in the situations I've outlined here today.
Can't get enough of Dirt Trax Television? Log on to DirtTraxTV.com to watch all your favorite episodes and visit our Facebook page to share your thoughts with other fans of Dirt Trax. Dirt Trax Television has been sponsored by Polaris, the hardest working, smoothest riding off-road vehicles. CanAm, the ride says it all. And by Arctic Cat, share our passion.